The distress beacon had been broadcasting for 11 minutes when the first response came in. Admiral Varek of the Conclave Fleet stood on the observation deck of the Meridian Station and watched the long-range display with practiced calm. 11 minutes. The Cathani cruiser Pale Sovereign would arrive in 40. The Drexy patrol vessel Endless Vigil in 53. Both adequate. Both capable of handling a stranded civilian transport in the outer reach. He turned to his communications officer, a young Cathani named Fies with silver-ringed eyes that blinked too often under stress. Any acknowledgement from sector vessels? Varek asked. Several, Admiral. Response times ranging from 38 to 90 minutes. Good. He clasped his hands behind his back. Any ship will do. Log the fastest and dispatch a coordination signal. Fies blinked 4 times in rapid succession. Admiral, there is one more acknowledgement. Varek did not look up from the display. Then log it with the others. It is from a human vessel, sir. A pause. Small, but present. Response time. Fies looked at his panel. Then looked again. 7 minutes, Admiral. The observation deck went quiet in the particular way rooms go quiet when everyone stops pretending to be busy. It arrived in 6. The Ardent Meridian dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of sensor range, which was, itself, unusual. Most vessels exited well clear of a station to allow proper deceleration. The Ardent Meridian exited close enough that the station's proximity alarms registered a single, half-second chirp before going silent. It was not a small ship. The Conclave classification database returned the result in 3 seconds. Erebus-class human battlecruiser. Mass, 2.4 million tons. Armament, classified. Crew complement, classified. Status, active service, Terran Navy. A battlecruiser. Running courier speed. To answer a civilian distress call. Admiral Varek found himself at the observation window before he remembered deciding to walk there. The Ardent Meridian was already moving. Not holding position, not waiting for docking protocols. Already moving toward the stranded transport with the quiet efficiency of something that had done this many times before. Its hull was dark gray and worn in the way that working ships are worn, scored with microabrasions from high-speed travel through debris fields, patched in 3 places along the port flank with slightly mismatched plating. It was not a beautiful ship. It was a used one. Hailing frequency, Varek said. They are already hailing us, Admiral. The voice that came through was female, unhurried, carrying the flat vowels of someone from one of the northern Earth continents. Meridian Station, this is Captain Celine Voss aboard Ardent Meridian. We have visual on the distressed vessel. Preparing to deploy rescue teams. Do you want us to wait for conclave coordination, or shall we proceed? Varek cleared his throat. Captain Voss, this is Admiral Varek. We were not expecting a vessel of your classification to be in this sector. We were passing through. A brief pause. Admiral, the transport's hull temperature is climbing. I'd like to move now, if that's acceptable. It was not, strictly speaking, a request. Proceed, Varek said. Commander Darius Kale was already in his vacuum suit when the captain's voice came over the internal channel. Darius, 2 teams. Bay 3. Already there, he said. He was. Bay 3 held 4 of the Ardent Meridian's rescue shuttles, and Darius had spent the last 4 minutes overseeing the pre-launch sequences with the methodical speed of someone who had done emergency deployments in considerably worse conditions. His team of 8 was suited, sealed, and strapped within 90 seconds of the distress signal reaching the ship. This was, in the Terran Navy, considered a normal response time. Transport is a Leth civilian passenger vessel, Captain Voss said over the channel. Hull breach on the lower decks. Oxygen compromised in sections 4 through 7. 41 passengers, 3 crew. Casualties, unknown. Comms from the transport are intermittent. Darius pulled up the structural schematic of standard Leth passenger vessels on his wrist display. He had never rescued occupants from a Leth vessel before. He had, however, studied the emergency documentation for 37 different alien vessel classes during the 6 weeks he spent on mandatory medical leave 2 years ago, because he was Darius Kale, and being still made him restless. Leth use a triple redundant emergency bulkhead system, he said to his team as the shuttle bay depressurized. Sections 4 through 7 will be sealed, but the passengers inside those sections will still have residual oxygen for approximately 22 minutes after primary loss. We go for the sealed sections first. Everyone else is waiting for us. They can keep waiting. His team nodded. None of them asked why he knew about left bulkhead systems. They already knew. From the observation deck of Meridian Station, Admiral Varek watched the rescue unfold with the particular discomfort of a man who had ordered this operation and was now entirely irrelevant to it. The human shuttles moved in a pattern he did not immediately recognize, not the standard concave spiral approach, not the Drexy linear formation. It took him a moment to understand they were moving in overlapping coverage arcs, each shuttle's sensor range supplementing the others, eliminating blind spots continuously rather than addressing them sequentially. It was faster, significantly faster, and it had the look of something designed by someone who had thought about the problem for a very long time. "How many crew aboard the Ardent Meridian?" he asked. Vice checked. The manifest lists 412, Admiral. However, human vessels frequently carry personnel not listed on standard manifests. And they answered a distress call. A civilian distress call. "Yes, Admiral." "A battlecruiser." "Yes, Admiral." Varek watched a human shuttle dock against the transport's emergency port with a precision that made his own pilots look like students. Through the long-range visual feed, he could see the airlocks cycling. Fast, faster than standard protocol, and then suited figures moving into the damaged vessel. He pulled up the timestamp. 11 minutes since the beacon began broadcasting. The human commander was already inside. They brought out the last passenger 19 minutes after first contact with the transport. 41 passengers. 3 crew. 2 with injuries requiring immediate treatment. Handled aboard the Ardent Meridian's medical bay before the Conclave's own medical vessel had even completed its FTL approach. Darius returned to the Ardent Meridian on the last shuttle, pulling off his helmet in the bay while his team ran post-operation checks around him. He had a bruise forming along his left forearm from where he'd braced a collapsing interior panel long enough for 2 passengers to clear the corridor. He had not mentioned it to anyone. Captain Voss was on the bridge when he came up to report. She was a lean woman somewhere in her mid-40s, with close-cropped gray hair and the kind of face that had stopped being surprised by things some years ago. She was reading something on a secondary display and did not look up immediately. "All out?" she asked. "All out. 2 in medical, both stable. The rest are shaken but whole." "Good." She made a notation. "The Admiral wants to speak with you." Darius blinked. "With me?" He was watching the rescue feeds. "He has questions about the approach pattern." Darius considered this. The overlapping arc formation? Apparently, the Conclave uses a different method. The Conclave method has a 12% larger blind spot window during initial assessment. Voss looked up from her display for the first time. "I know. That's why I'm sending you to explain it to an Admiral." Admiral Varek received Commander Darius Kale in the Meridian Station's secondary conference room. He had expected a debrief. He had prepared questions about tactics, about training, about why a battlecruiser was running rescue patterns in the outer reach with the comfort of long habit. What he had not prepared for was how ordinary the man looked. Darius Kale was not large, not visibly augmented, not carrying the bearing of someone who expected rooms to rearrange themselves around him. He was a man in a Navy uniform with a bruise on his arm and a calm, attentive expression, as though the Admiral's conference room was a perfectly reasonable place to be, and he had all the time in the world. "Commander," Varek said, "your vessel was 6 light minutes from this station when the beacon broadcast." "Yes, sir. You were at the hull before Conclave vessels had finished calculating approach vectors. We maintain elevated readiness when passing through populated transit corridors," Darius said. "Standard practice." Varek studied him. "Why?" Darius seemed to find the question genuinely puzzling. "Because someone might need help, sir." The Admiral was quiet for a moment. Outside the conference room window, the Ardent Meridian held position with its mismatched hull patches and its worn gray plating and its 412 crew members who had, apparently, been ready. "Your captain said you were passing through," Varek said. "We were. Passing through to where?" Darius met his eyes. "Wherever the next call comes from, Admiral." The Pale Sovereign arrived 26 minutes later. The transport passengers were already eating in the Ardent Meridian's mess hall. The battlecruiser, which had not been expected and had not announced itself and had not waited to be assigned, was already gone.